So what's up guys, it's Ash here and welcome back to a brand new video. Now if you've been around on the channel for a while, it's no secret that my favourite formation personally is always the 4-2-3-1. Now the reason I love the 4-2-3-1 so much is because it just feels the most balanced and unique to me. The thing I like about the 4-2-3-1 is that it's really good in both the attack and the defence, and I like that you can play both wide and narrow with it. It just always feels super varied and it's my favourite formation for that reason. So yeah, let's get right into the tactics and the player instructions for the 4-2-3-1. If you guys want coins for FC24, make sure you check out MMOEXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're very fast, they're very cheap, they're very reliable, and if you use my code Rema, you can get yourself a lovely 5% discount. Alright then guys, so what I like to use for the custom tactics on the 4-2-3-1 is the defensive style. I like to have this on balanced. This is because it does give you the best control over your defense, so when you want to press your opponent you can do that, and then when you want to drop back and be a little bit more passive you can also do that. Whenever we want to use pressure as well, we can use something else which we will get onto in a moment, so you don't actually have to use any pressure tactics in this game. Moving on to the defensive width guys, I have this on 42 at the moment. This is so we can primarily defend in a nice narrow and compact shape, which will stop our opponent being able to just attack us right through the middle. However, we still maintain some of the natural width of the formation to cover the wider areas in case an opponent goes for an attack down the wing. So it is very important that you don't defend too narrowly, otherwise you just leave too much space out wide. Now moving on to the depth, this is what I was on about when it came to the pressure thing. On the new gen versions of the game, so if you're on the PS5 or the new Xbox or the PC version, if you have your depth on 71 or higher, you will get this automatic press from the AI. Basically the game will press for you and it's really overpowered. You also get an automatic overload of the ball side, which again is very overpowered and makes it very difficult for your opponent to play through. And this also breaks your opponent's attacking AI. Now the reason people use this as opposed to like pressure tactics is because it also gives you a minimal stamina drain, so you can actually do this without really feeling the effects of your players getting tired. So very overpowered, and I hope EA fix this soon, but for now everybody is using this. Now moving on to the build-up play guys, I have this on balance. This is because I find it to be the most varied and controlled form of build-up in the game. When you use balance, you can pick and choose when and where you use each form of build-up. So sometimes you can build up slowly, other times you can build up a little bit faster. So balance is the best way to go in my opinion, as it is the most controlled form of build-up. Moving on to the chance creation guys, this one's very important in my opinion, and everyone should pretty much have to use direct passing at this point. The reason being is direct passing is the only setting which will actually make your attackers move in the correct ways. It makes your attackers make versatile movements, more dynamic runs, and the biggest part about this is when you use direct passing, your attacking players will like bunch up against the opposition defenders, meaning it's very easy to isolate a specific defender and take him on in a 1v1 play. So direct passing is very important to use yet again this year. I wish it wasn't, but unfortunately it is. Moving on to the attacking width guys, because this is a more narrow formation, we do use a lower width. This is because we don't want to make it super wide, otherwise we might as well just use the wider variation of this formation. So we want to keep it narrow but not too narrow, which is why I have it on about 44. Now moving on to players in box guys, I just leave this bang in the middle at the moment. This is so we can get a few players into the box to finish off our chances, but we don't overcommit everybody on our team into the penalty box to the point where if we lose out on possession, we're not always going to get counter-attacked. As for the corners and free kicks guys, I have these both on 2, but this is a preference thing. If you want to up this or lower it, it is completely up to you. Sorry to interrupt the video guys, but I have noticed around 90% of you that watch the content are not subscribed, so if you are finding any of these videos helpful, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, as it does help me out massively. Also don't forget to drop the video a like as well. And with all that aside guys, let's get back to the video. Now moving on to the player instructions guys, I actually have made a couple of tweaks since my last video on this formation, and it is based on the way that the game is at the moment. So on the striker now, I currently just leave him on the complete default settings. What I'd do previously is have him on stay central, but I was noticing at the current point in this game, I wasn't getting enough movement out of the striker on stay central. He just wasn't doing enough, and it was actually way too hard to build up. So I just have him on balance width at the moment. So sometimes he'll drift out wider to receive possession of the ball, and this is very useful with Benzema, for example, because he does have that finesse shot plus trait. If he drifts out to the left or to the right slightly, it will perfectly set up that angle for the finesse shot. So balance width has actually been doing me quite well recently. Now moving on to the central cam, guys, I just have him on get into the box for cross. In fact, it's actually the same for all of the cams. Now the reason we have them on get into the box for cross is so that they're not hesitant to get into the penalty area and contribute when we're in that space. If you have them on balanced crossing runs, sometimes these players can be very hesitant and not actually commit into the box, and you will not score as a result. Having them on get into the box for cross doesn't mean that you have to cross the ball to them. It just means they will actually make those runs into the penalty area to help you out. I also leave them all on basic defensive support because I don't like restricting them all that much at the moment. I did try the wide cams on come back on defense, but I just noticed you get pinned back way too much, and I didn't really like it. So I've currently just left them all on basic defensive support, so it's a bit easier to get up the pitch when you win the ball back. Moving on to the left CDM, guys, I do use a more defensive minded player here. So on this player, I have him on stay back while attacking and cover center. Now we have him on stay back because, like I said, this is a more defensive minded player, so we don't want this guy flying forward. We do want him to stay back where he should be. And then the other important thing is that we have him on cover center, so he will actually defend those central areas. This is very important, otherwise your opponent can just cut right through the middle of you. Now moving on to the right CDM, I do use a more box-to-box style player. So on this player, I like to leave him on the default settings. This is so he can do a bit of everything from attacking to defending. Very important you don't restrict this more box-to-box player to strictly defending, because I find it to be very difficult to build up. Otherwise, it is useful to have this transitional player, in my opinion. We also have him on cover center for the exact same reasons as the left CDM, where he will always block those attacks through the middle and make it a bit more difficult for your opponent to just cut right through you. Now moving on to the fullbacks, guys, on your more attacking one, doesn't matter which one, whether it's the left back or the right back, I suggest putting them on balanced attack and overlap. Now the reason we do this is because, like I said, this version of the 4-2-3-1 is slightly more narrow than a lot of formations, so it is important to sometimes have that wider option, because if you're always playing super narrow, it can actually become very difficult to create chances a lot of the times, especially if your opponent is good defensively. It's very important to have one of these fullbacks going forward on the overlap to give you that wider option, give you an extra angle, and stretch your opponent's defense and make their life a bit more difficult. So on your more attacking fullback, balanced attack is and overlap is preferred, in my opinion. Works out very well. And then on the other one, guys, the more defensive one, we have him on stay back while attacking and overlap. This is so we always have at least 3 defenders back at a time, so we're nice and defensively sound. But we leave him on the overlap run type. So if we are to send this player on a run forward, much like the left back in my case, he'll make the overlapping runs to give us that wider option. If you still feel uncomfortable with this and you feel a bit defensively exposed, you can put them both on stay back overlap if you like, but I prefer to just leave one of them on balanced. As for the 2 centre backs, guys, you want to leave these alone. You don't want to touch them. Their instructions are already perfect on default. And the keeper, if you want, you can put him on comes for crosses and sweeper keeper, but it doesn't matter all that much. I leave them on balanced and he works fine just for me. But yeah, they're my tactics and instructions for the 4-2-3-1. If you have enjoyed this video or found it useful, please be sure to drop it a like, sub to the channel if you are new, and don't forget to turn on notifications. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will catch you all in the next video. Peace out, guys.